So our next topic is the importance of FOP walkthrough. By FOP, we mean field of play, aka the skate park. So, guys, what would you tell our viewers? Why is it so important to do a walkthrough or skate the FOP before the competition starts, especially when you judging it? Who wants to take on this one? Kyle.
I'll
I'm
start.
looking for volunteers.
I'll start. Yeah. The importance of a walkthrough or a skate through, if you have the time and it's available, is very important. You can look at something from the judges stand and you can see everything. Don't get me wrong. You know, we're seated correctly, but you want to walk through and see, like, okay, if he he ollies up to that and grinds through that pocket, I mean, the trajectory of getting to it, how's he pumping to it, or how's she pumping to it? Like, how do you get there? How hard is it to make this look easy? Because these people are very good at skateboarding, so they tend to make things very easy, and then, you know, in your mind as a judge, you're like, well, I could do that, but then you go skate it and you're like, wow, you know, it can really change your mind instantly when you drop in and you follow these lines that they're doing in practice, and you realize how hard it is, how much time they have to link these things together. You know, how hard is it to get to that hip? How hard is it to grind all the way through that pocket? You know, we can look from the judges stand and understand all of that to a point. And then but when you drop in, then you really get it.
Get the feel, huh?
Yeah.
And I think that also like applies to the, you know, a lot of people assume things while watching TV broadcasts. And
Yeah, of
in my
course.
personal experience, everything looks much easier when you see it on the TV and it's so plain and it's so clear and it's like easy to say that this was nothing. But then when you're there, it's actually really a different story. And like you said, Kyle, like dropping in and writing it, that brings a
Yeah.
whole another level to
It's
everyone who's the
reality.
expert behind the TV screen or never had the opportunity to even like walk around. And how does this affect the judging process, guys? Like, what do you take from the FOP walkthrough, or do you discuss your impressions when you do it?
Can I just say, like, when you, just on a little side note, like, a lot of these parks are being built for an international level. These parks are being built and they've got, like, you know, really beautiful transition. You know, you think of Tokyo and stuff like that. But when we're judging other events at skate parks that have been there for 20 or so years, we know that the transitions can be quite rough and random and a bit awkward in spots, which, you know, we love as skateboarders. You know, there's nothing cooler than rocking up to a park and it's got these gnarly, real kink, steep part in a quarter, which it's hard, but then you get that sense of reward when you nail a trick on it. So we know that sometimes you don't see that until you actually skate it. And if it's a park that's pre-existing, you know, I think it's important as a judge to have skated that park at some stage prior. It doesn't have to be that morning, but I mean, knowing the aspects of that park, like, yes, the new parks that are built purposely for these events at that international scale tend to have that beautiful transition. But I'm just thinking of, you know, you think back to some of the comps you've done and some of the gnarly bits that you've skated, and we all know as soon as someone hits that spot, you're like, whoa, that's tight, or that's hard, or there's not much flat or not much run up to get to that. So having skated that yourself and knowing those little tricky parts of the park, so when a skater hits it, you know that yes, it might only be a Smith grind, but that was a gnarly corner to get into that corner and come out of there with speed. So that's why I think it's critical as well.
That's the thing what I meant when I was asking how does it affect your judging process, because for the general public and for the people who are maybe watching it in the live broadcast and they are not there, they don't see these details. And using your example, a Smith grind could be a basic trick without the knowing that there is a bump or a crack or, you know, something that makes it so hard to get there, or that putting it in this line, it's almost a miracle to keep the speed and get out of it. And it reflects on the evaluation. It makes the certain trick more valuable, considering all the kind of difficulties that are not visible on the live broadcast. Knowing it by heart, uh, I think it makes the judging evaluation more accurate and precise, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think at this level of skating, I mean, you're talking about the Olympics. It's these guys can trick you. You know,
Oh
this
yeah.
group of people, they can trick you because they're so good. They make things look so easy. And
Yeah.
and doing the walkthrough and skating and you take a step back and go, wow, like this, you know, everyone in this competition is elevated as far as, you know, as far as how good they are. But yeah, it really brings you to reality when you drop in yourself.
Yeah, it's so important to be conscious of that when you're judging.
Hmm.
It's key to take this into consideration, because you can miss, like you said, Kyle. You know, the skateboarding is about to do really like hard, let's say, moves with your body combined with your skateboard, and we all know that. But the goal of skateboarding, and the best skaters, the ones we look at, or we were looking at when we were younger, were the ones that make it look so easy, and we were like so impressed, and we'll be like, hey, I want to do that kickflip that way, you know, that
And then you
crispation, you know,
try it, and then
and
you
then you
try the
try it,
kick.
and then you realize you're like, and it looks, and you'll make this face when you do the
Yeah.
kickflip, and it's not that easy to make it look smooth and with style, and it's the part of the job. It's not, you know, skateboarding is like, manage to get the trick and to land it, and then there's a whole other segment that you need to work on, is make
Yeah.
it look good. And that's,
Yeah.
you know, and if you're conscious about that, you know, that's important, and that's the reason why, like, the field of play walkthrough is important. But if you can scale it, like we said in the second episode of the webinar as well, if you have the time to skate the park and consider the different, you know, challenges to get there, to do that trick, to grind that spot, to fly over that hip, etc. That's the most important, because that's going to give you an accurate, you know, more accurate way to judge these people.
Half the I was gonna say half the battle of like doing the gnarliest trick in the deep end or whatever in park style skateboarding is half the battle's getting to it.
Yeah.
If you can't figure out how to generate the speed to do the trick, you're not going to do the trick. There's no straight shot to it. So it's like, you know.
And for judges being able to see it and appreciate it and evaluate it fairly, that's the most important part.
Oh yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. And for all of you viewers, we have prepared a little edit with the walkthrough from the Tokyo Park FOP. And we're gonna try to simulate and show you how the communication and the walkthrough looks like. So let's move to the video. So here we go. What would you say on the first impression when you see the park FOP?
I remember when we showed up to Tokyo, the first thing I thought was the footprint of the park itself was pretty big, you know, and so you start thinking as a judge, okay, in 45 seconds, you know, where are these people going to go? How many tricks can they do, and is it going to take how long is it going to take for them to get there?
Yeah, are they going to use the whole thing?
Right, exactly. Can they use the whole thing within the allotted time? Yeah. I thought the first impression was usually in the parks like this, the middle island isn't usually as big of a footprint. So I wondered like, okay, is that gonna are the skaters gonna be able to, you know, how are they gonna use that island? Because usually islands you can air over, and this one that wasn't really happening. There was tons of hips there, but you have this huge platform in the middle that I thought was something new that you usually don't see too often.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just to get back on that, I had the same feeling. You know, I was like, wow, uh, 45 seconds. Well, they're
Right.
probably gonna use like half of it or 2/3 of it. And then when we dropped in, remember, Kyle, it was really smooth concrete and really fast.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and I felt like, well, no, this is going really fast. And when we were watching the first couple of days of practice, it was kind of like, yeah, obvious that the guys could definitely get away with a proper run and use most of the features, because obviously the lines and the way they use these lines and these transitions and these corners and these whoops and these hips to go fast. But obviously, yeah, the main volcano, the central part, it was so big that there was nothing really to do for them to cross that thing, to transfer the whole thing, even on the small side. So it was kind of like they were using the hips, they were using the features, and it was great, that ledge on the side, the different features around that volcano were good options, but that platform was kind of an empty space that they didn't really optimize, and there wasn't really anything to do to optimize that platform, I would say.
What about the other features of the FOP? Like, what were your impressions, or how did you look at it?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you want to see how quickly or how, how they get to these features that are kind of on the deck side of things, on the outside of stuff, because that really does matter. You got obviously the obvious part of the park is all the big transitions and the deep end and things like that. But what can really set people, far and away from the rest of the pack is using these features on the outsides. So it helps to drop in and kind of roll around to see how accessible they are and how easy it is to get in and get out. I would say that the volcano being, or the middle island being so big, it kind of helped people. I mean, that's where some of the guys were starting, some of the athletes, that's where they were starting their lines from.
Yeah.
Was the beginning. So it kind of helped give a different option on how to chop up the park, and have your 45 seconds. You could just start in the middle.
When I look at the park, like, I see a couple spots that are ideal to starting a line, and and that kind of determines where to go and how to approach the obstacles on your way, so to say. How were your impressions when you did the walkthrough on that? Like, did it help you to be more accurate later on when you saw the guys practicing, and then later on at the competition, knowing these differences?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say too, like for the pump bump section, those pump bumps are pretty big. And so people were doing tricks, flip tricks. Whenever you do flip tricks off of something that doesn't have, like, if it's either a bank or something that has just like a lip to it, there's always that part of the pump bump, like, where do you pop and how easy is it to flip? So just rolling over that thing and then just like, clicking an ollie over it, then you kind of understand that obstacle, way more as if you were just sitting from up in the judges stand. So it comes down to small things like that, where you would see how hard it is to flip off of a transition to bump, but that everyone knows that. But when they were doing it in their lines, like, just continuing the flow, after skating that thing, that meant a lot more to the score, to me.
I think there was, like, let's keep the square rail aside, because that's, to me, that was really that kind of street flavor added on the platform. When sometimes on the park that we can see, on the balls that we can see, there's a few more of these kind of obstacles that kind of push the athletes to use them because they are there. But on the two sides of the park, there was these platforms with the banks and the whoops that can definitely allow you to start your run, from the platform and do a trick to come in the ball, a better trick than just a roll-in or an acid drop, But I also had the feeling when, I wasn't disappointed, let's say that there was not so many people using all these features that are around the transitions on the platforms, because at the end of the day, it wasn't a normal contest because there were only 20 girls and 20 men skating that thing. Where sometimes I was thinking, well, it would be a normal qualification event with 160 people. There will be so many more way and people having their different way to interpret and to use this spark in a different way, that we would have been more like, oh yeah, well, he's finding a new line or he's doing something different. Where it was the Olympics, all these guys wanted to, they were there, they were happy to be there, they wanted to do their best, not maybe taking too many risks, because they knew they were part of the 20 last people,
Sure.
in that list, and they were just kind of using the whole terrain much more in the inside than using the outside features and the platform bumps and the platform banks and everything that in a normal competition that would, where it would have been open to, a lot of people and a quota for federations, which would have been many more competitors. So I think it would have been interesting actually to have this 100 and plus people, kind of like expressing themselves on that spot, because we might have seen much more and much more variety of lines and tricks,
And I'm also like, based on what we discussed earlier today, I'm also considering like the constraints of the event format or the duration of the run. And when I listen to you right now, and when I see the FOP from Tokyo, it is really big. And using the side features, let's say, requires extra time, and or your competition strategy for the composition of your performance run to include them in without losing time to do other things that might be more difficult, or fit your line to keep the speed and connect with the other tricks within your line.
Yeah. For example, like to illustrate what you said, most of the people that used the platforms, they were using it at the beginning of their run. Like probably just Pedro Barros did go out on one of these corners and then frontside 50 back into the quarter pipe, which was great. And he was in the middle of his run, but he was just one dude doing it because it was risky to kind of play with these features, exactly what you said.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing too, going back to starting your run. You start your run on the outside if you want to skate something on the outside, and then get into the to the bowl section, because the footprint is so big that it's going to eat up time. So it's like there's a lot of strategy to try to hit these little accent pieces, and it's cool to see also too, as practice goes on, you see a couple people like, all right, who's going to grind it first? And then you get like your 50-50s or whatever, your tail, ollie up, like tail slide or tail stall or whatever. And then it starts to progress, so then people get their tricks on those accent pieces. But then when it comes time for the runs, they might feel comfortable enough to start their run with that. And that's a pretty interesting thing to kind of watch evolve leading up to the actual contest.
That's amazing, guys, because it makes complete sense. It makes you to know the terrain that the athletes are skating by heart, see the potential, the difficulties, and the hardships that the athletes might have skating it, the advantages and disadvantages. And like we said, like it helps you to deliver the most accurate results, knowing the terrain and seeing and understanding what's possible, what not, what could be done, and how it could be done, connect together. All right, I think that we explained the very, very important part of the judging process, which is the walk of the FOP or skating the FOP. And as a recommendation, I think you guys agree with me. We would strongly advise to every judge to do the FOP walkthrough or skate it by yourself at every contest you participate in. It will just not make you look more relevant as a judge when the athlete's seeing you doing it, but it will make you understand the terrain better and score better.
Totally.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. This was great. Let's move to the next topic.